In 2005, authorities went door to door in New Orleans, seizing firearms from law-abiding citizens without warning. This wasn't fiction. This was martial law in action on American soil. Today, I'm going to reveal the 3 categories of resources that governments target first when martial law is declared, the historical precedents that prove this isn't just theory, and most importantly, the practical steps you can take right now to protect yourself and your family before it's too late. Welcome to Prep Pantry, where we help you prepare for life's uncertainties. If this information could help someone you know, smash that like button and subscribe for more essential preparedness content. Let's start with what martial law actually is, because most people have a completely wrong idea about this. Martial law isn't some distant, dystopian nightmare. It's the temporary substitution of military authority for civilian rule. When it's declared, the military gains the power to enforce laws, maintain order, and here's the key part: suspend your civil rights. We're talking about curfews, restrictions on where you can go, and the suspension of habeas corpus, which is your right to a fair trial. Now, many people think this could never happen in America, but that's exactly the kind of thinking that leaves you unprepared. During Hurricane Katrina, we saw martial law principles in action. Authorities didn't just suggest people evacuate, they went house to house, forcing people out at gunpoint and seizing their legally owned firearms. These weren't criminals or troublemakers. These were law-abiding citizens who had done nothing wrong except try to protect their homes and families. And it wasn't just Hurricane Katrina. During World War II, fuel rationing was a daily reality for Americans. The government controlled who could buy gas, how much they could buy, and when they could buy it. Sound familiar? These aren't ancient history lessons. Lawsuits from the Katrina gun seizures are still working their way through the courts today. Here's what makes this so dangerous: the speed at which everything changes. One day you're going about your normal life, and the next day, military personnel are telling you what you can and can't do in your own home. Executive orders already exist that give the government sweeping powers during national emergencies. They don't need to pass new laws or debate in Congress. The legal framework is already there, waiting to be activated. So what exactly will they target first? Let me break this down into the 3 categories that history shows us get hit immediately. First, they're coming for your ability to protect yourself, your weapons and ammunition. This isn't speculation or conspiracy theory talk. This is documented fact. During Hurricane Katrina, authorities systematically went door to door, demanding that citizens surrender their firearms. They didn't care if you had permits, licenses, or had never committed a crime in your life. They took guns from elderly women, from families trying to protect their homes, from people who had every legal right to own those weapons. But here's the really troubling part. Many of these confiscations happened because the government knew exactly who owned what and where to find it. Registration records became shopping lists for confiscation teams. This isn't unique to America either. In Nazi Germany, citizens were required to register their firearms with the government. When the political climate shifted, those same registration records were used to locate and confiscate weapons from the very people who had followed the law. The lesson here is crystal clear. When push comes to shove, being a law-abiding gun owner doesn't protect you. In fact, it might make you a bigger target because the authorities know exactly where to find you and what you have. Second, they're going after your mobility, fuel, and energy resources. Think about it. If you can't move freely, you can't organize, you can't escape, and you can't resist. Executive orders already exist that allow the government to ration or redirect fuel supplies during national emergencies. This isn't theoretical. It's already on the books, ready to be implemented. During World War II, Americans had to use rationing books to buy gasoline. You couldn't just pull up to a gas station and fill up whenever you wanted. The government decided who got fuel, when they got it, and how much they could have. With today's global tensions and supply chain problems, we're already seeing high fuel prices. In a real crisis, those high prices could turn into no fuel at all, or fuel that's only available to people the government deems worthy. And it's not just gasoline. We're talking about heating oil, propane, electricity. Any energy source that keeps you independent and mobile becomes a tool of control. If you can't heat your home, power your devices, or fuel your vehicle, you become dependent on government assistance. Dependency equals control. Third, they're targeting your survival resources, food, and communication. Now, this might sound extreme, but multiple presidents have signed executive orders that give the government the authority to seize and redistribute food supplies during national emergencies. That means even if you've spent years carefully building up your food storage, it could be taken away and given to others who the government decides need it more. Think about the implications of this. You do everything right. You prepare, you save, you invest in your family's security. And then the government shows up and redistributes your efforts to people who didn't prepare at all. It's not just unfair. It's a direct attack on the idea of personal responsibility and self-reliance. Communication is the other piece of this puzzle. Many people rely on cell phones, radios, or ham radios to stay connected during emergencies. But here's the reality. All of these can be shut down, jammed, or monitored by the government or military. Cell towers can be turned off with the flip of a switch. Radio signals can be jammed or triangulated to find your location. Even internet communication can be completely blocked. When Hurricane Katrina hit, many areas lost all communication for days or weeks. People couldn't call for help, couldn't coordinate with family members, and couldn't get information about what was happening around them. Now imagine if that communication blackout wasn't just due to storm damage, but was intentionally implemented to prevent people from organizing or sharing information. So how do you actually prepare for this reality? First, you need to understand the diversification principle. Never keep all of your important resources in one place. If you own firearms, don't store them all in the same gun safe in your basement. If you have a food stockpile, don't put it all in one pantry or storage room. The goal is to make it impossible for anyone to find and seize everything you have in a single sweep. This applies to ammunition, food, fuel, medical supplies, everything that could be targeted. Use multiple secure locations. Maybe that's different rooms in your house. Maybe it's trusted friends' properties. Maybe it's well-hidden outdoor caches. The key is that losing one location doesn't mean losing everything. You also need to be smart about what information you share and with whom. Avoid discussing your preparations with anyone who doesn't absolutely need to know. Don't post about your stockpiles on social media. Don't brag about your gun collection or your year's worth of food storage. Operational security isn't paranoia, it's common sense. But here's something that might surprise you. Individual preparation can only take you so far. The most resilient people throughout history haven't been the lone wolves with the biggest stockpiles. They've been the ones with the strongest community connections. A single household is vulnerable, but a network of families working together is incredibly hard to break. This means building relationships with your neighbors now, before any crisis hits. It means identifying people with complementary skills. Maybe you're good at gardening, but your neighbor knows mechanics, and someone else down the street has medical training. When everyone brings something to the table, the whole group becomes stronger. You also need to establish communication methods that don't depend on technology. This means predetermined meeting places and times. If the cell towers go down, if the internet gets cut, if radio communications are jammed, you need other ways to coordinate with your people. Maybe it's checking in at a specific location every day at noon. Maybe it's leaving coded messages in predetermined spots. It sounds old-fashioned, but these methods work when high-tech solutions fail. Now let's talk about the self-sufficiency mindset, because this is really what separates people who thrive during crises from people who just survive. The more you depend on external systems, government services, corporate infrastructure, supply chains, the more control others have over your life. But skills and knowledge can't be confiscated. They can't be redistributed. They can't be taken away from you. Learn practical skills now while you have time and resources. Gardening, food preservation, basic mechanical repair, first aid, water purification. These abilities will serve you regardless of what kind of crisis you face. And here's the beautiful thing about skills. The more you use them, the better you get. Start small, practice regularly, and build your capabilities over time. You should also reduce your dependence on vulnerable systems wherever possible. If you rely on the electrical grid for everything, you're vulnerable to power outages, whether they're caused by storms, cyber attacks, or government shutdowns. Solar generators, wood stoves, hand tools, manual water pumps. These alternatives might seem primitive, but they work when modern conveniences fail. Don't forget about legal preparedness either. Keep detailed records of your property and assets. Take photos, maintain receipts, document serial numbers. If your property gets seized during an emergency, having thorough documentation will be crucial for any legal challenges you might pursue later. Yes, the legal system might be suspended during martial law, but eventually, normal operations resume, and that's when good records become invaluable. Here's something most people don't think about: transportation alternatives. If gasoline becomes unavailable or rationed, how will you get around? Electric bicycles, regular bicycles, even walking routes become incredibly important. An electric bike can travel significant distances without depending on gas stations, and it's quiet enough to avoid drawing unwanted attention. Now, I want to address something important. Some of you might be thinking this sounds paranoid or extreme, but preparation isn't about fear. It's about responsibility. It's about taking care of your family and not being a burden on others during difficult times. Every single thing I've talked about today has historical precedent. These aren't hypothetical scenarios. They're documented events that have happened in America and around the world. The people of New Orleans didn't think their guns would be confiscated either, until it happened. Americans during World War II didn't expect fuel rationing until it was implemented. The key is understanding that governments will always prioritize collective stability over individual rights when they perceive a serious threat. This doesn't make government officials evil or malicious. Many of them genuinely believe they're doing what's necessary to protect society. But their definition of protection might be very different from your definition of freedom. When those definitions clash, guess which one wins? The time to think about these issues is now, before any crisis occurs. Once martial law is declared, once the emergency powers are activated, it's too late to prepare. You'll be operating under whatever rules the authorities decide to implement, with whatever resources you had available at that moment. So let me ask you directly, what steps are you taking to prepare? Are you diversifying your resources? Are you building community connections? Are you developing practical skills? Are you reducing your dependence on vulnerable systems? Or are you gambling that nothing will ever happen, that the government will always respect your rights, that supply chains will never fail, that emergencies only happen to other people? Because that's what it is, a gamble. And you're not just gambling with your own future, you're gambling with your family's security and well-being. Is that a bet you're comfortable making? The beauty of preparation is that it helps you regardless of what specific crisis you face. The skills, resources, and mindset that would help during martial law are the same ones that help during natural disasters, economic collapse, supply chain disruptions, or any other emergency. You're not preparing for one specific scenario. You're building general resilience. Start where you are, with what you have. You don't need to transform your entire life overnight. Pick one area, maybe food storage, maybe alternative communication methods, maybe community building, and start there. Make progress every week, every month. The goal isn't perfection, it's improvement. And remember, you're not alone in this. Millions of Americans are waking up to these realities and taking steps to protect themselves and their families. Find those people in your area, connect with them, learn from them, share resources and knowledge. Together, we're all stronger and more resilient. The question isn't whether difficult times are coming, it's whether you'll be ready when they arrive. The choice is yours, but the time to make that choice is right now. If this information was valuable to you, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Prep Pantry for more content about preparedness and self-reliance. What aspects of martial law preparation concern you most? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll address them in future videos. Until next time, stay prepared and stay free.